The whole Torah starts with the story of creation. We learn about the beginning of everything that we find beautiful on this earth: mountains, oceans, lakes, rivers, the trees and plants, all the creatures, and of course, human beings. It turns out that human beings are actually quite complicated. Who knew? It seems as though God possibly didn't even realize that in the beginning, just how complicated we were going to be. And so once people started running things down on the world, things got a little dicey. People weren't kind to one another. They were actually quite hurtful, and they took advantage of others, and they lied to people. And they didn't try to make things right. They made a lot of mistakes, which is okay, but they didn't try to correct their mistakes. They didn't try to become better people. And that was really upsetting to God. And so what God decided to do was to start all over again. Like we do with many projects. If something is really failing miserably, sometimes it's best to just scratch it, start over from the beginning. And that's what God decided to do. So God finds his buddy Noah and says, build an ark. I'm going to give you very specific directions. Take your family and 2 of every creature, go on the ark. I'm going to have it rain for 40 days and 40 nights and destroy everything. Now, one of the things that's debated often is, was Noah really a righteous person? They say he was righteous for his time, but what does that mean? Noah didn't argue with God at all. He didn't try to save any of the other people. He didn't say, wait, stop, let's wait a little while and see what happens. Noah followed all of God's directions and did exactly as he was told. It's not until Abraham comes along when we find out that it really is okay to argue with God. We should argue with God if we see something isn't right in this world or if something isn't just. So Noah built the ark and went on it with his family and the animals. It rained for the 40 days and 40 nights, and everything was destroyed. And when Noah and his family and the animals got off the ark, God made a promise and said that God would not destroy the world ever again, and he sealed the deal with a rainbow. One of the things we have learned in this story is that we really do need to be kind to one another. We should be gentle with one another. And it seems like God probably learned something too, that we human beings are never going to be perfect. And that's okay. We're worth keeping around because we human beings do have some potential. And we remember that every time we see a rainbow to this very day. Chag Sameach. Be kind to one another, and blessings for 5781.
So, Judaism starts with Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Joseph, Rachel, and Leah. Next comes Joseph and his siblings. There are 12 brothers and 1 sister in the family. Now, Joseph is Jacob's favorite son. So Jacob gives him this beautiful multicolored coat. Joseph thinks he's pretty hot stuff. Joseph has these dreams where his family bow down before him. The family doesn't like that very much. So, naturally, the brothers throw him into a pit. It's a long, crazy story. But he ends up going to Egypt and works for this guy named Potiphar. But that doesn't work out well either, so Potiphar throws him in jail. While he's in jail, Joseph has these dreams, and he interprets them and actually predicts the future, which everyone thinks is very cool. So word of his ability spreads all throughout the land, and even Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, finds out about this and asks Joseph for help. The Pharaoh has some very intense dreams, and Joseph helps him interpret them in order to help avoid a famine. Well, Joseph now becomes one of Egypt's greatest heroes. Now, meanwhile, his brothers all this time thought Joseph was dead. So imagine how surprised they were when they show up to Egypt asking for food, and the guy in charge is Joseph. He tests them a little bit, but he finds out that they've grown up a bit over time, and they've learned what the importance of family and how to take care of them is and how to take responsibility. Now, the brothers were a little nervous about Joseph hanging on to the past, but it turns out that Joseph was ready to forgive. This is a wonderful story about forgiveness and about families who have some problems, who learn to work them out.
Exodus. Okay, so there's this new Pharaoh in town, and he is not like the old Pharaoh, like the Joseph Pharaoh, who was kind of cool. This guy, not so much. He's mean. He's really mean, and he hates the Israelites. Now, I think it's partially because he's so afraid, and fear can make us do bad things, but that's a whole nother story. Pharaoh, because he hates the Israelites so much, orders that every single Jewish baby boy be murdered. Seriously, that's drastic, don't you think? Oh my gosh, that would never fly today. Well, at least one would hope not. Anyway, so nobody wants to disobey him, and the moms have to do what they have to do. But anyway, there's this one woman, Yocheved, who has this little baby named Moses, who's really adorable. And Yocheved's like, nah, I can't do it. So instead, she ties him up in a little, not ties him up, wraps him up in a comfortable, cozy little basket. And she sets the basket onto the river, Nile, and watches it float away. Well, Pharaoh's daughter is kind of hanging out by the river, and she sees this baby floating by, and she's like, oh my gosh, a baby, look, cute baby. Oh, I love him. I'm going to make him mine. I'm going to call him my own. I'm going to raise him in the palace. He's going to be a prince. Not like a, Purple Rain, that kind of prince, but a royal prince. And everything was great. And Moses grows up in the palace, and he's royal and wonderful, and everything's great until one day he's out walking and he sees this Egyptian taskmaster beating an Israelite slave really badly, and it just makes him so angry, like he can't control his anger. Now, Moses does have an anger issue, which gets him in the end, but that's something totally different. We'll touch on that some other day. But he kills the taskmaster. Then he realizes, not a great thing to do, so he runs the other way. And he moves out to the suburbs, reinvents himself as a shepherd. While he's a shepherd, he's watching his sheep, and all of a sudden he sees this bush burning, but it's not being consumed. Not like eaten, consumed, because, most people don't eat bushes, but it's burning and, not being consumed. Anyway, he realizes, oh my gosh, this is God talking to me. And God says, Moses, go back to Egypt, tell the Pharaoh, let my people go. Like, free the Israelite slaves. And Moses is like, are you talking to me? Because, no thanks. I am not the guy for this job. Thanks for calling. Try somebody else. God says, no, Moses, come on. I want you to do this. I'll help you. You'll have people. There'll be people. And Moses says, okay, all right, I'll go. So he's very reluctant, but he goes back. He tells Pharaoh, let the Jewish people leave Egypt. And he accomplishes the task, which is pretty amazing. But the real issue here in this story that's very important is that sometimes we are asked to do really hard jobs, and we think, there is no way I can do that. That's impossible. Who could do that? But the thing is, you can. You just have to know in your heart and in your soul that somewhere inside of you, there's a power and an energy and an ability to accomplish things that you never thought you could have. Like trying to tell the entire story of Exodus within just a few minutes. I did it.
Well, after the burning bush, Moses does go to Pharaoh and tells him, let my people go. Pharaoh is extremely stubborn, so it takes a while. He says, no, 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 I will not let them go. So there was blood in the Nile, frogs here, frogs there, frogs were jumping everywhere, darkness, and all the 10 plagues. Finally, he does let the people go. And then, of course, leave it to Pharaoh. He changes his mind again. The Israelites need one more miracle to get out of there. So the Red Sea parts and they walk across, but it closes back up onto the Egyptians who are chasing them. All of that is really awesome for them, but kind of terrifying. The waves are crashing. The Egyptians still want to capture them and make them slaves again. It's loud and intense and chaotic. Miriam is really tuned in to how the people are feeling, and she knows that they need to stay calm but keep moving. She thinks about giving an inspirational speech. But they've heard a lot of talking. She thinks about ordering them to just keep marching, but that doesn't feel right. And suddenly, she just knows what to do. She grabs a timbrel, which by the way is a tambourine, and she starts dancing. And her friends start dancing with her, and all of the women start dancing with her, and they are singing and dancing and having so much fun. And you know what happens? It makes them feel better. In fact, maybe we should try that right now. Doesn't that feel great? That's one of the things that we learn in the Torah, how important it is to sing and dance whenever one can.
When the Israelites get out of slavery, it's awesome. They celebrate, they sing, they dance. It's great. But the truth is, they're pretty scared. They don't know how to be free people. They've never had to take care of themselves before, and they're not sure they can do it. They complain about everything. The food, the water, they're tired. You know how that goes. They get to Mount Sinai and they have this incredible encounter with God. Every single person knows that God is right there speaking to them. But then Moses goes up the mountain and doesn't come down for 40 days. This freaks the people out. They don't know if they have a leader anymore. They don't even know if Moses is alive. They're at the bottom of the mountain in the middle of nowhere, and they have no idea what's going on. So they build this little statue of a calf out of gold, and they start worshiping the calf. Here's the problem with that. There were 2 reasons to get out of Egypt. The first reason was that slavery is awful. No one should have to be anyone else's slave. The second reason was to teach the world that nothing besides God is God. Nothing else should be worshipped. Not famous people, not our bank accounts, not our cell phones, and definitely not a little statue made of gold. So God gets really, really, really mad, and he lets the people know that they blew it. The golden calf is remembered to this day as one of the worst things our people has ever done. However, God forgives them in the end and gives them a second chance. We learn a lot about second chances from the Torah.
Okay. V'lo kam naviot b'Yisrael k'Moshe asher yidao Adonai panim el panim v'chol haotot v'hamoftim asher shilchan Adonai la'asot b'eretz Mitzrayim L'Pharaoh u'lechol avadav u'lechol artzo u'lechol hayad hachazakah u'lechol hamorah hagadol asher asa Moshe li'enei kol Yisrael chazak chazak v'nitchazek
חזק חזק ונתחזק.
Amen. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim va'et haaretz. Ve'haaretz hayta tohu vavohu ve'hoshe al panei tehon. Beruach Elohim merehefet al panei hamayim. Vayomer Elohim yehi or. Vahi or. Vayar Elohim et haor ki tov. Vayavdel Elohim vein haor uvein hachosheh. Vayikra Elohim laor yom v'lachosheh kara laila. Vayir vahiva